To start off with, the Eevee Grove expansion is dropping in a few days, so I thought now's the perfect time to go through every Eevee card and evolution in TCG Pocket to see which ones are actually worth your time. From the original base set to the latest drops, I'll be ranking them all based on how playable and competitive they actually are, and spoiler alert, some of your favorites might actually be trash. So here's how the tier list will work. I'm ranking these based mostly on competitive viability, not cuteness, even though that will make this a lot more easier, but in any case, let's get into it. Okay, so first we're going to start with the generic Apex set. So first of all, we have the standard Eevee, 60 HP, 20 damage with just 1 energy. I would say that's pretty basic and standard. All in all, I have nothing much to say about this. This is as basic as you can ever get with Eevee. I guess in this day and age, it's probably a lot more, I guess, demanding nowadays to have basic Pokemons do a lot more than just you slap on energy, it attacks, it does damage. It's too simple. I'll put that into the D tier, please. Alright, so next up we have Vaporeon over here. Vaporeon, this one's a little bit of a good example of how bad you can actually make a card actually be. So for 3 energy, you are going to be dealing 60 damage, which is pretty much abysmal, and you'll be healing up for 30 instead. While this sounds really good on paper when it first came out, people eventually realized that you can just power through everything thanks to, I believe it was Mewtwo, Charizard, and Pikachu that were pretty much running the meta at the time. So I would slap this down into the D tier. Next up, we have my absolute favorite out of the 3 in the genetic Apex set, which is pretty much going to be Jolteon. Now, Jolteon here's what I like to use to call the Zapdos X of Temu. And essentially, it does the exact same thing as Zapdos X, only with 2 energy and maybe just a bit of cut from the damage as well. I mean, being able to deal possibly 160 damage with just 2 energy is pretty insane, and I do like myself a little bit of gambling. I guess in this day and age, it's a fun little cheese card to play in some decks. You'll never see it, but if you do, just stay prepared because there is always going to be the possibility of this Jolteon able to pretty much one-shot any X Pokemon you throw at it. Next up, Flareon. Now, Flareon's a bit of a really interesting case, that being, yes, 3 energy for, I believe it says 110 damage, which also, by the way, doesn't sound too bad. It sounds pretty good. Like, it out damages Gengar, and the drawback is that you have to discard 1 energy as well. This did not see any play at all back in the day, because people were running Blaine decks non-stop and people were just in favor of Moltres and Charizard X decks. So Flareon never saw any play until Mythical Island, I believe, when people were just spamming Celebi and Superior a lot. This was the only, or I would say one of the best checks to pretty much one-shot a Celebi. I would say it would be high D tier, I guess, to give, maybe C tier, just because of pure damage. Pure damage. Sometimes it's worth it, sometimes it's not. I guess it really depends on what's dominating the meta at the moment. I think even with Buzzwole running around, I'm not sure if this is really worth it anymore. Maybe just, okay, fine, maybe just high D tier. So now moving out of the genetic Apex set, we are moving into the Mythical Island set now, featuring 2 Eevee cards. So we have the base Eevee and the new Vaporeon as well. We're gonna start with Eevee. Now, this version of Eevee is my absolute favorite, absolute troll as well. It's got a coin flip mechanic. You know, it's relatively quite simple. For each heads you get, you add another extra 20 damage on top of your already existing 20 base damage. And while this does sound okay at a first glance, well, people often forget that there is always the possibility of this one little Eevee over here capable of one-shotting any Xmon out there. It's insane. It's happened on both ends from my side, especially. Like, I've one-shotted, I believe it was I think it was a Mewtwo X once with this, and I've gotten my Buzzwole X one-shotted by this Eevee as well. So it's absolutely funny. It's absolutely troll as well. I mean, come on. Well, how else will a card game be fun if it weren't for a bit of gambling, huh? All in all, this is probably the strongest Eevee that you're ever going to probably be seeing in this current version of Pokemon TCG Pocket. Next up, we have Vaporeon. Now, this is the Mythical Island version of Vaporeon, and this one definitely I would put around maybe the low B tier in this day and age, but back then this was definitely a core card to be played alongside. I think it was Manaphy. It was Manaphy and Gyarados, and it had this really cool ability where you could pretty much transfer energy from your bench Pokemon into the active space, which was really crazy back then. Especially you have decks like Gyarados and Blastoise X running around. Everyone pretty much is super hungry for energy. Yeah, but nowadays you don't really see those cards anymore, so it's kind of fallen off a bit, but it'll always have a place in my heart. So I will definitely put this into the B tier. here. Who knows? Maybe something will come back in the near future where energy reallocation is definitely needed once again. So, well, I guess I'll just have to wait for that time. Alright, so next up, this is the Spacetime Smackdown Eevee. Now, I feel like this is kind of like a weird in between of the Mythical Island and the genetic Apex Eevee. And it's basically very straightforward, right? You flip a coin. If you get tails, you do 10 damage. If you get heads, you do 30 damage for just 1 energy. I would say it's a safer version, I guess, a safer but less rewarding version of the Mythical Island Eevee. So I'm just gonna put it down to maybe like the B tier. It's kind of like the in between, right? I think that's relatively fair, would you say? Now this one over here, Leafeon. Oh man, at first glance, 2 energy for 90 damage is pretty good, right? It is pretty good. And they realized that you can't really attack after the next turn. It's kind of like what Buzzwole has, right? But the thing is, the Buzzwole can pretty much switch in and out easily with Celesteely. Leafeon, on the other hand, you will have to pretty much just give an extra 1 energy up, just like that, so that you could, say, deal a consistent 90 damage every 2 turns. I absolutely hate it. Yeah, even if the damage is good, I'm just gonna put it down to the D tier. Maybe like in front of Vaporeon. Maybe I'll move Flareon above it. I think Flareon deserves a bit of love, to be honest. This isn't the worst. 110 for 3 energy. I mean, it out damages Gengar, if anything. Next up, we have Glaceon over here, and I will call this the Articuno from Temu. Pretty straightforward as well. 2 energy for pretty much an Ice Beam, dealing 60 damage. But the best part about this is that there's the possibility of inflicting paralysis. And I think the thought of that alone, I think it definitely makes me really, really happy, because paralysis is still a pretty strong sort of status condition to inflict onto your opponent as well. And doing that for 2 energy is pretty big, especially. I think I would definitely love to put this around the A tier. I think this is pretty fun. It's a pretty fun version of Glaceon to play around with. Alright, so next up, I believe this is the Triumphant Light version of Eevee. Now, 2 energy for 30 is terrible. I don't like it. I absolutely hate it. I'm just gonna dunk it down to the D tier. Enough said. You have 60 health, and you're gonna be spending the first 2 turns dunking energy so that you can only do like 30 damage. I don't think it's worth it at all. Enough said. I'm just gonna have to pump it down to the D tier and just move into the next one. Okay, so this is the first EX Mon, or the first 2 EX Mon that came from the Eevee line. So starting off with the Leafeon X from the Triumphant Light set. Now, Leafeon X is a pretty interesting one. Obviously, 3 energy for 70 damage is kind of doo-doo, but then you look into its ability where, you know, if Leafeon is in the active spot, you can pretty much just grab a free energy and just attach it to one of your other grass Pokemon in the bench. So this was pretty strong again. Especially, you know, Celebi decks. This was still strong. I guess in some Venusaur decks as well. Basically, you have free energy regeneration through Leafeon X. I absolutely love playing this card so much, and I'm gonna put it down to maybe I guess low, like high A tier if it went for its damage. I think it's somewhat balanced, but yeah, no, I think keeping it down at the A tier seems pretty fair to me. All right, so next up we have Glaceon X. This one's a bit of an interesting one, obviously dealing a little bit more damage compared to Leafeon X for 3 energy, dealing 90 damage. And now it's got a very interesting ability. I think snowy terrain. So during every Pokemon checkup, if this Pokemon is in an active spot, it deals 10 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. I think like figuratively, every time after you attack with Freezing Wind for 90, I think it's kind of like poison. It's kind of like poison, but it doesn't go away as long as Glaceon X sits at the front row. So it's just 10 damage periodically between every I guess Pokemon checkup. That's very interesting. So you will be dealing 100 damage in turn 1. Once again, it's not too big, but it's really good if you like to do, like, you know, Cyrus decks, maybe like you like to drag people from the backline to the front. People like to retreat in the face of this. I would say this has a bit of a more niche application compared to Leafeon X, but nonetheless, I still think it's pretty strong. Alrighty, now before we head on to the nitty-gritty, the one that everyone's been waiting for, I want to feature this version of Eevee. I believe this is the promo Eevee, where you pretty much just growl for minus 20 damage. I would say it's terrible. Why would you even play this card? So right now, the moment you've all been waiting for, we're going to be starting the reviews of the new cards that will be releasing during the Eevee Grove theme booster pack expansion in maybe just a couple of days. I'm kind of seeing these cards for the first time as well. So yeah, right now, as of this moment, this is going to be a live reaction moving forwards. Starting off, we have the main star of the show, Eevee EX. Oh wow, Eevee gets its own X card. That's pretty cool. Now, from a first glance, people think, oh man, this is pretty cool. cool, right? I mean, you do like Bite for 30 damage with 1 energy. It's not too bad. And it has a weird little ability where this Pokemon can evolve into any Pokemon that evolves from Eevee if you play it from your hand onto this Pokemon. So basically, you can evolve Eevee EX into any of these other Eeveelution cards. It doesn't have to be an X like Mon at all. It doesn't have to be Leafeon or Glaceon X. It can even just be the regular evolutions of Eevee that you may have in your collection. If you knock out Eevee X, you'll be giving your opponents a free 2 points. So you can pretty much deny that by evolving Eevee into a non-X Mon, which I guess is pretty cool and all. But I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. It doesn't feel like a very impressive Eevee card to me. I mean, sure, it has 90 HP, but I believe that's probably the lowest health of all X cards that we have so far. I think even lower than Pikachu X with 120 HP. So maybe time will tell. Maybe this card might be a lot more better than what people would pretty much be giving it credit for, but for now I really don't see anything impressive about it, because even there's some stage 2 Pokemon that could even one-shot this Eevee. I would honestly put it down to low C tier, even like right behind Flareon. It's not really calling out to me. I'm not a fan of it. Alright, next up. Oh gosh, once again Vaporeon. I swear to god, Nintendo, you and your Vaporeon enjoyers. So this version of Vaporeon has the Hyper Whirlpool. It seems like for 3 energy you deal 70 damage, and it's pretty much very similar to, I think, Guzzlord or the Team Rocket card, where basically you keep flipping your coins until you get tails, and for each head you discard a random energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. I do love me some energy denial, don't get me wrong. This card is a little bit niche though, because I can kind of see Rampardos just scoffing at this idea. It's like, okay, sure, you know, just keep doing what you're doing. So I feel like this would be great against energy heavy Pokemon, but nonetheless I would say the application is still somewhat niche. I will have to put it down into the D tier. Next up, oh my gosh, Jolteon, the GOAT, the absolute GOAT. I think when I saw this card at this point, even some of the other content creators have exactly said that's equally similar as well. This version of Jolteon is actually pretty fun to play. So first off, just like Farfetch or Katana, you're dealing 40 damage with just 1 energy, which is pretty good. But this other thing over here is that if you evolve Jolteon in the same turn, you pretty much just deal 60 damage in turn 1 and then another 40 damage in turn 2, which doesn't sound impressive at first, but if you think about it, you are dealing 100 damage in 2 turns, which is already pretty impressive. I guess they're trying to make electric type decks a little bit more, I guess, speedier than the regular fighting decks that you see around the meta nowadays. I don't know, but like I would love to have this as a starter to definitely use in my electric decks in the near future. I kind of can see this go along very well with cards like Zeraora maybe, or even like just slapping in Oricorio. This would just be like a early game destroyer, 100%. Either way, I am very happy with this. I'm gonna be putting this right next to the other Jolteon as well, I guess a little bit higher. Moving on, we have Flareon X. Now this one's a little bit more interesting. So we have an X card this time from Flareon. Now once again, Flareon kind of, you know, still does its own thing, same as its non-X version. It's still doing a buttload of damage with 130 damage for just only 3 energy, but in exchange you discard 2 energy from this Pokemon, right? But oh no, you're running low on energy, you have to wait for another turn. Well, fear not, because it has this ability called Combust, where once during your turn you may attach a fire energy from your discard pile into Flareon X, but then in return you deal 20 damage back to Flareon as well. I guess in a sense you are still kind of doing the same as the original Flareon, but this time you're inflicting 20 damage to yourself so that you can deal 20 more damage, I guess. I mean, for now, being able to do 130 damage instead of 110 damage for 3 energy is actually still pretty good to me. I just don't like how you have to sort of deal damage to yourself to get more energy. I guess this is more of a fun trade-off to have, to be honest with you. I could definitely see some potential with Flareon X sweeping teams alongside with the red trainer card. So I would definitely say that I'm gonna place this guy just right in between the Glaceons actually. I think this is definitely a card that I'll be keeping an eye out on once the set drops. Yes, of course, Espeon, one of the best evolutions from Gen 2. And now this one is okay, so it's this one and Umbreon. So Espeon and Umbreon are both cards that I'm very excited to pretty much play around with when it comes out. Mainly for Espeon, people are already speculating that Espeon is going to become the Dark Tina killer. In case you guys don't know Dark Tina, it's basically Darkrai and Giratina. Please don't look that up, please don't play that deck. But either way, this is going to be huge, especially since it has this move called Energy Crush, where you deal another extra 20 damage for each energy attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon. So if you are going up against an opponent that likes to use a lot of energy regeneration, kind of like, you know, Leafeon EX, Giratina, I guess Gardevoir, for example, anything that can kind of just create energy from thin air or pull energy from a discard pile, Espeon can definitely capitalize on that and deal good amount of damage with just one energy, which is pretty impressive. I'm very excited for this, and personally, I would definitely put Espeon into the S tier. Get it? The S tier? Yeah. Next up, we're going to be playing with Umbreon, and this card I'm also pretty excited to play with as well because of its move called Dark Binding. So basically, with just one energy, you deal 40 damage, and if the defending Pokemon is a basic Pokemon, can't attack during your opponent's next turn. Oh my gosh. Oh my, you can pretty much lock someone in if they're a basic Pokemon. And yes, this also applies to EX mons, right? So say if you go up against a Darkrai Giratina deck where everything is just basic Pokemon, they're pretty much screwed. They can't really do anything. And not to mention, this is also kind of strong against any of the Ultra Beasts except for Poipo, I believe. But anyways, like Buzzwole, Celesteely, they are going to definitely suffer under our Load and Savior Umbreon. But yes, I predict that Umbreon is going to be very, very strong in the next meta. I'm just calling it right now. Also because Umbreon is my favorite evolution. So I'm going to slap Umbreon down into the yes tier. So next up, we have another version of Leafeon, and this time for one energy, you can pretty much do 10 plus damage. Now by plus, I mean the attack that Leafeon deals will do an extra 20 damage for each grass energy attached to this Pokemon. So I can see that if you're running a pure Leafeon deck featuring Leafeon EX and this version of Leafeon, you can pretty much do a good amount of damage. But what do I know? Maybe people will have to come up with something a lot more interesting than that. A little bit weaker compared to the other newer cards in this upcoming set, like Jolteon, Umbreon, and Espeon. But look, I'm not really sure how this version of Leafeon will perform. I do think it's got potential, but only time will tell. So for now, I'm going to be putting him into the C tier. Alright, next up, we have another version of Glaceon, and this time with 2 energy, you will be dealing 50 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Huh, alright, well this one's a little bit more fun. Like, I don't know why, but for some reason, all Glaceon cards are pretty fun to play with. So for this version of Glaceon, basically you'll be able to even snipe back lines with 50 damage. I would say it's pretty straightforward. I mean, great for stopping fossils, I believe, because I think most fossils are 30 or 40 health. So great for one-shotting fossils for 2 energy. I think this does have potential. Maybe this is made to shut down Rampardos decks, maybe. What do I know? But I can definitely see some play in this version of Glaceon. For now, I'm going to be putting you a little bit in front of Vaporeon over here. Okay, last one, Sylveon EX. Now this one is a bit of an interesting one. So last but not least, we have Sylveon EX. I think it's the newest addition of Eevees into the Eevee line so far, and this one is a little bit interesting to play. Obviously with 2 energy, you're dealing 70 damage, which is pretty good already actually. But what's even better is the Happy Ribbon ability that it has. So once during your turn, of course, when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, which is any of the Eevees, you can draw 2 cards. You literally get free card draw just by playing Sylveon EX. The tempo behind this card is absolutely crazy. I cannot believe it. Like, maybe you can just have Sylveon EX act as a Pokemon that's just meant to be setting things up or something. I don't know. In a card game where each player gets only 20 cards per deck, drawing 2 cards already is pretty damn good. Like, the more cards you burn through, the better. So I definitely want to put Sylveon EX into the A tier. I would say... Yeah, high A tier, next to Leafeon EX as well. If you tell me to choose one or the other, I would definitely choose card draw over energy regeneration. Also, this version of Sylveon EX is a lot more consistent, I would say, or it's a lot more flexible compared to Leafeon EX, since you can pretty much evolve it at any time in any deck, whereas Leafeon EX, it feels like you have to kind of just play only grass decks instead. I don't know, it's just me. But yep, that is it for me for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this tier list. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree with this tier list as well. Now, here's a little bit of a question for you guys. If you guys could pick any of the evolutions right now to completely remove from the Pokemon franchise, which evolution will it be and why? Let me know down in the comments below. But anyways, that's it for me, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.